The words from the last song are from Ann's favorite musical, Wicked. They express exactly how Ed feels about his life with Ann. And here are some of the quotes. "I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. So much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And because I knew you, I have been changed for good." All the songs that you heard before the service and that you hear after the service are from Ann's playlist. So we're in a way entering her world. This celebration of life is an informal sharing of stories about Ann. She was deeply close to many people, some of whom want to share their experiences and stories with Ann. Listen for what Ed calls Ann's acts of kindness. All the times that she went way over the top to help someone. Ed knows at least 100 stories like this, but there are a lot more. You will hear a few in these talks, and if you walk around and talk with the variety of people at the reception, you will hear more. And before we get into the program, a little roadmap. We have 14 presentations today. We were going to start off with 45 minutes, but it's stretched a little bit. So there'll be Ed's video. I will read 4 of the presentations, and then 9 other people will give us some short comments and stories about Ann and how they related with her. Also, if you're one of those speakers and I haven't checked with you, I will call you up and introduce you at the appropriate time. So Ed has so much to say about Ann, and he felt that he could not hold it together speaking here, so he recorded a video about his life with Ann and what she means to him. Ann was not into social media, but this video now has 46,000 views between his blog and all the social media.
Celebrating the life of Ann Hetram. I'm heartbroken. My wife, life partner, and business partner, Ann Hetram, passed away unexpectedly on Sunday, March 30th. We'll have a celebration of life in Ann's honor to share stories on Thursday, April 17th at 3 p.m., followed by reception until 8. Details at the end of this talk. I'd like to share today our life together and what she means to me, her unique qualities, and some of the excessively generous acts she does. I call them Ann's acts of kindness. Ann was truly my life partner in every way. She means much more to me than just being my wife. She was my best friend. We shared most of our friends. We were key parts of both of our families, and we did many things together. But she was also my business partner. For many years, we shared an office and did client meetings together, so she was with me all the time, 24/7. Our office started in our home and then moved across the street, so she was always close. I met Ann taking the Dale Carnegie course. The sales guy said it would change my life. It changed it completely. I was smitten with Ann from the first day. She was doing an example of a memory technique where she was called the Swami. She memorized 30 items named by class members in order. She was asked to identify them in a random order, like which one is number 17. When all were named but one, she was asked which one's left. She's 100% right. I was in awe. She looked awesome in power skirt suits and became Dale Carnegie's top instructor in Ontario. She was amazing at reading people and knows what she wants. For example, I was surprised when she asked me about getting married after dating only 4 months. Everything she did was done in her own unique way. We were married in our home, which we bought together. It was a house party for 45 people, and it was just fun. My dad was the minister. My mother was the best man. Her dad was the maid of honor. We saw fireworks on my wedding night because my brother and cousin did a show in the evening. Nothing was traditional, but it was perfect for us. She made quick decisions with good insights. When we got married, I was an accountant working with a multinational company with a pension. A year later, I announced I wanted to quit my job and become a financial planner, which meant commission-only pay and no pension. Her quick answer was that she's okay with it as soon as the mortgage is paid off. She figured I would fail, but she could pay all her, our lifestyle expenses with her pay. I started our practice while still working full time. We paid off our mortgage in only 3 years, and then I quit my job and went full time. So now we had decent management incomes, but Ann played a big part in us paying off our mortgage so quickly. She was always frugal, didn't spend much, and knew how to save money. She searched through flyers hunting for sales. Her rules for groceries were buy on sale and always buy 6. Why 6? For Ann, 6 is the right number. I could never have built our financial planning practice without her, or even started it. When we met, Ann already had a financial advisor, a growth portfolio, and an investment loan. These are ideas we use in our practice. I learned about it by sitting in on her financial planning meetings with her advisor and found it all fascinating. She started my passion for financial planning. Ann constantly received promotions in all her jobs. She started as a temporary help receptionist and was promoted a few times within a couple of years to become warehouse manager, master schedule, and materials manager for LePage's. That's the glue company that made the white glue you ate as a kid. After 3 years, I needed an assistant, but she had a good management job and would have to give up a nice salary. Nevertheless, she gave it all up and joined me in my practice. Now, Ann has been the perfect business partner. She did everything I was not good at or anything I didn't like, and she was good at everything. She started by completely organizing all our admin. She was a master organizer. She created double checks in the processes, so I don't think she ever made a mistake. She joined my financial planning meetings, and everyone seeing us work together said we were an awesome team. So I was a knowledgeable financial planner, and she connected with everyone on a personal level. I would often explain things in perfectly good English, and she watched the clients and could tell if they didn't understand. Then she would ask, "You didn't understand that, did you?" She then explained it in simpler yet effective words so the clients understood the concepts. For years, Ann was the first to talk with people interested in becoming new clients. She could read who was sincere and connect with them. She could see if they were not a fit for us, and she effectively screened them out without offending them. I often heard her say, "Perhaps we are not the right advisor for you." So she was tough when she needed to be. Whoever got past Ann was almost always a great client. When we hired employees together, or we'd hire them together, when I look back now, the ones that stayed for years and became an indispensable part of our practice are all people that she selected. We both love cruises. I took a cruise and a trip to Winnipeg every year to spend time with my family and childhood friends. I soon realized that my friends, even my childhood friends, liked Ann more than me. Ann was an awesome cake decorator, but she only would do it for close family or friends, and always for free. We have beautiful samples at our home displayed in a china cabinet. She joined the Canadian Society of Sugar Artists and is a director. Club members did some amazing things that even non-decorators like me could appreciate. They won Best Booth in the Canada Blooms Flower Show with only icing sugar flowers. They created a 4-foot blown sugar replica of the Juno statue for the show. When Will and Kate married and announced their wedding cake, they created an exact replica over 3 days at the home show. So many members of the club became Ann's good friends. Ann loved crafts and did courses in more than 100 crafts. The way to get under her skin was to name a craft she has not done. Someone told her they had done a class in caning for making Adirondack chairs. It had bugged her that she hadn't done it. So after a search, she took a course in caning. So our home is full of craft supplies. Ann loved flowers and could name almost any flower she saw. On one of our vacations, she took over 100 pictures. When I looked at them, one was of the resort pool, and all the rest were close-ups of flowers. She designed a beautiful backyard for us with separate raised beds for flowers, herbs, and peppers, and several fruit trees, and a waterfall and pond. The flower beds were all perennials selected so that the different flowers bloom continuously throughout spring to fall. So it's like a beautiful orchestra. Ann also loved the theater, so we've seen all the Manoeuvre shows for more than 20 years, and her favorite 2 shows, Wicked and Come From Away, we've seen them 6 times. One of my best memories with Ann is our luxury Mediterranean cruise last year. It was our first cruise with just the 2 of us. So many interesting sights. Then we spent a week with her intentions group, friends, in Switzerland. It was so beautiful. The entire vacation was such a special time of togetherness for us. I know literally thousands of people, but don't know anyone that's like Ann. She's unique in many ways. I never doubted that she loved me, but she was not romantic or lovey-dovey. So Ann's idea is that we should rent kids, not own them. So we didn't have our own, which gave us more energy for other people's kids. Ann was great with kids and connected with our nieces and nephews as well as a few of our friends' kids. At one point, we had 13 godchildren. We thought that if there was a catastrophe, we were in big trouble. Ann was foremost a personal coach. Her intuition about people was astoundingly accurate. She had a knack for seeing when someone needed help and was open to it. She would go way out of her way to help people, often in ways that were just over the top. She had an amazing memory. For me, it was sometimes too good. She was quick to point out things I said or did years ago, but she remembered precise details of events years ago all the time. Ann had two hobbies that required her memory and cost nothing. She collected birthdays and famous dead people. So she knew the birthday for most of the people close to her. If you named the day of the year, she could tell you who had a birthday on that day. So I suggested she put it in a computer program, but she had them all in her head and didn't need help remembering. So she had to know who's dead and who's alive. You could rarely stump her on whether a famous person is still alive. Every year she had to see the year-end memorials to see who had died. I call them Ann's acts of kindness. Ann could sense when you needed help and were sincere about it. She often went way over the top to help someone. There are at least 100 stories like this, and they're all quite amazing stories. I know many, but I've become aware that there are many I don't know. So now these are not my stories to tell, but if you have a story, I would love to hear it. Many people Ann is very close to involved in Ann's act of kindness. So the person probably closest to Ann besides me is Raven. He was a recent immigrant from Guyana that Ann took under her wing. He will tell a bit of his story, but Ann sees him every day. He's an indispensable part of our life now. Ann and I both think of him like our son. Ann also talked with her pop, it's her dad, every day. Helped him with all kinds of issues, including his development in Fort Erie. She bought him a smartphone and a tablet and taught him the basics of using them. So he's not at all techie. So took an immense amount of time. Our nieces and nephews have been important to us for many years. We went to see Vinny's 3 kids every Friday. If work was so busy we could not possibly go, Ann insisted we go anyway. We also went on Disney vacations with them every second year. This was always a priority for Ann. There are some widows or single women she talks with every week, which give them a connection in their lives. She has an intentions group that she spends an hour with every week and is close to all the members. In her cake club, Ann helped some top cake decorators negotiate a fair price for the work from Bridezilla, as that's what she called them, who wanted a huge discount on a beautiful cake with tons of homemade flowers that would take the cake decorator 20 or 30 hours. So they made them out of love and then accepted prices that would be less than minimum wage, and coached them to insist on a fair price and not accept work from those who didn't appreciate the quality of their work. So Ann's acts of kindness gave her deep connections with many people. So tell me your stories of Ann. If you have a story about Ann, your relationship with her, or you have an example of Ann's act of kindness, I want to hear those stories. They are my most treasured thoughts about Ann. If you want to share them at her celebration of life, please tell me so you can put you on the list. You could also just let me know at the reception or email me the story so I have it forever. We will have a celebration of life reception in Ann's honor on Thursday, April 17th. The actual gathering to share stories about Ann is at 3 p.m., followed by an informal reception until 8 p.m. Bring your stories with Ann. It's casual dress. In lieu of flowers, Ed and Ann have started a charitable foundation called Best Things First, based on a book about a study to identify the most cost-effective charities in the world. As a financial guy, it's the first time I have seen someone try to estimate the benefit for each dollar donated. The Best Things First Foundation is part of Charitable Impact, which is a registered charity in Canada. We plan to provide regular donations to the GiveWell Top Charities Fund. So you can donate in the secure portal settings in the Best Things First Charitable Foundation, and I've got the link on my blog post. So I'd love to hear your stories with Ann at our celebration of life or by email. Thank you.
So we'll have Raven, and just a heads up after that, Dana and Despina. Raven is a dear friend and probably the person closest to Ann other than Ed. Both Ed and Ann think of him as a son, and he is a partner in their practice.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate the life of Ann. Strong, reliable, selfless, empathetic, honest, and intelligent. These are the words I'll use to describe Ann. She was indeed a beautiful soul. I met Ann and Ed in 2014 through Mr. Jack Fleming, whom she babysat for when she was a teenager. At the time, I was a new immigrant to the country, and in order to stay, I needed a job in my field after I completed my studies. Ann offered me a temporary position with Oakland during tax season. After tax season was over, I thought I was out of a job, but no. She called me into the office and said, they've agreed to keep me full-time, and I've been there ever since. I wasn't an easy person to train, to be honest, but she never gave up on me. For example, I was always anxious when dealing with the CRA, but I overcame that through her mentorship. Now, I'm the one that's handling all the client queries with the CRA. She also trained me in our tax process, and I became her right-hand man during tax season. Ann's mentorship continued not only in my professional life, but also my personal. As a mentor and a boss, she was tough and compassionate when required. Her primary goal was to always make me better, and that never changed. She helped me navigate troubled waters, for which I will forever be grateful. She sat me down once and said, "Raven, I see a lot of potential in you, but you keep holding yourself back. You need to push through if you want to succeed. It will be hard, but I know you can do it, one step at a time." This was something she was good at, identifying someone's weakness and help them strengthen it. I'm thankful she never gave up on me, but helped me break down barriers instead. Our relationship evolved over the years. We went from strangers to family. Ann was more like a mother to me than a boss. She was there at my graduation, helped me understand the process of getting my PR, and was present along with Ed when I finally became a citizen of this country. During COVID, Ann began driving me home instead of me commuting. She insisted on picking me up as well, but I said, no, that's too much. In days when she couldn't, she'll ask Ed, and he never said no. He'll always do it. Ann loved the garden, and it's where we spent most of our time outside of work. She loved flowers and the sight of our garden blooming. Last year, while she was on a cruise, she asked me to take pictures of our wisteria once it started blooming. She didn't want to miss it, and I made sure she didn't. The only other thing we grew together, which rivaled her love for flowers, were peppers. Ann loved a good hot sauce, and I'm not talking about Frank's. She won't put that on anything. See, I told you people will get it. She loved hot peppers like Carolina Reapers, Scorpions, Scotch Bonnets. Hot peppers were always a mainstay in our garden, and the Oceans Garden Center was our one-stop shop. She loved that store. Despite it all, though, her favorite hot sauce was always her mother's. She had it every day. I remember whenever Mom needed pepper, she said, "Raven, we needed to go to Oceans. We need to get red peppers. Mom has to make pepper sauce." 2 Oceans we will go, big bushel of pepper, take it to her mom's. A few days later, we got pepper sauce. It was great. Ann was truly a unique individual. She was my rock and someone I can always depend on. I'm proud to say she never steered me wrong, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here who could say that. Ann, I'll miss your guidance, your quick wit, your little victory dances, laughter, and most of all, I'll miss your love. Continue to rest in peace. Thank you.
Dana is a niece with special connection ever since Ann's idea to take her on shopping trips when she was young, and they talked for hours. She is also the designated grandchild provider in the Rempel family.
Hi, I'm gonna share my story. I also have Steve's to share after, but like Eric said, I'm Dana, I'm Ann's niece, and I found it really hard to put into words what Ann meant to me. Memories of growing up and looking forward to their annual trip to Manitoba, where we would spend, the whole day shopping, and Ed, of course, was there. And we would have the day of shopping, talking, that would last for hours. And when they would try to drop me off, I would still not get out of their vehicle for hours just to continue our conversations. And that's really what I remember most about those trips. I really looked forward to them. As I got older, the shopping was replaced with meals together, but the hours of visiting and talking remained. We would talk about small things like natural remedies and flowers and gardening and things like that, but also bigger things. Ann's love and talent for creating sugar flowers also helped me out. So one of the drawbacks with getting married in August was that my favorite flowers, peonies, were no longer in season. And so not only did Ann make me these beautiful sugar flowers, she also carted them all the way from Ontario to Manitoba, which was no small feat. But that was Ann. I felt like there was nothing she couldn't do. She was someone I really looked up to. Whether I was 13 or I was 30, she always gave me a really safe space to be vulnerable and to talk, to be listened to and be heard. I felt like she really imparted so much wisdom. She encouraged my gifts, and she just really helped shape and help who I grew into today. I will miss her warm smiles, her greetings of "Hi, hon," with the warm hug she would give you, and treasure all of the time and the talks that we did get to have, even though it feels like it will never be enough. I'm just so thankful to have all of those special times that we got to have together. And I'm just really thankful for her. And I'm gonna I didn't read his before I wrote mine, but it starts with "Hi, hun," which was always how this is from Steve, my husband, who, is Ann's nephew now. That was always the way Ann would greet you. She always had a smile on her face when she said it. I have never met another person with so much confidence. Whatever Ann did or said, she did it with her whole being and did not waver. I always appreciated how she spoke her mind and she expressed herself when you asked her opinion. And if she did have a different opinion, she always had a way of sharing it without making you feel bad. It usually started with, "Okay, well, what about?" I remember thinking Ann was different one of the first times I met her. We were talking about cake decorating. She told me how she had taken this cake decorating course, which was quite expensive, but she had to take it again as she didn't feel like she had done well enough. Even though we only usually got to see Ed and Ann once a year, every time we would get together, it was like leaving off from the previous time. The way they both would take the time to talk with you, to listen with you, and make you feel like you're the only person in the room. And genuinely would ask how you were doing, how my parents, Steve's parents and siblings were doing. And as Ed mentioned in his tribute, she rarely forgot anything. I will miss trying new restaurants and talking late into the hours of the night. On more than one occasion, we would keep Ann up way past her bedtime and she always tried to hide and stifle her yawns. but eventually she would be the voice of reason and say that they should go because they needed to get to work and bed the next day. So those are just some of the memories and the moments that we treasure with Ann.
So next we'll have Despina and then Mark and Joseph. Despina is Ann's childhood friend who was full of stories from when Ann was young. They saw each other less often in recent years, but it always felt to Ann like no time had gone by when they talked.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to say a few words about my dear friend Ann. I would like to extend my condolences to Ed and the family on behalf of my brother Chris, my mother, and my family. It is surreal that 57 years after having met Ann Hetram, I find myself standing here in sorrow, but also celebrating the amazing person that she was. Over the years, we slipped in and out of connection, having gone on different paths, but we always reunited in timely moments, as we are best friends forever. Today, however, I'd like to take a nostalgic trip into the past, straight back to Mimico, to David Hornell Public School, and reminisce a bit so that perhaps I can conjure up for you a portrait of Ann the child. My family had moved to the neighborhood mid-September 1968, and I was a new student in a grade 2 class. I found myself admiring a beautiful, exotic little girl a few rows ahead. She wore a crisp, neat frock with the bow tied at the back and 2 long braids tied with ribbons. She was smart, serious, and attentive in class. We were kindred spirits, and a friendship was forged. On a side note, we both immigrated here in 1967, so our meeting was meant to be, I think. It was special. For the next 2 years, daily, we met at the corner of Stanley and Albert Avenues. We walked to school together, retraced our steps at noon, ate lunch, watched the Flintstones, and met again, discussing the existential nature of Fred and Wilma. In 1969-70, in grade 3, our favorite teacher was Miss Clark. Ann and I were partners in class, our desks side by side. We were so earnest to win the teacher's favor that we naively but proudly announced to her that we wouldn't talk in class, rather we would secretly pass written notes to each other. Ann and I adored Miss Clark, and our challenge all year was to discover her first name. We made it a mission of intrigue, deciphering, and sleuthing for clues. By June, we learned that M stood for Marilyn. Miss Marilyn Clark was so flattered by our devotion that she mailed us both her wedding photo, and Ann and I had the audacity to telephone the newlywed Miss Clark, now McCarthy, at home on her private time. The fun and hilarity continued after school at Ann's house on Albert Street. I was such a regular visitor that the extended family knew me. Mrs. Hetram fed me like her own. How delightful to extend my culinary repertoire. I enjoyed curry and roti regularly, and even tasted pizza and Kentucky Fried Chicken there for the first time. Elvis Presley once said, "When I was a child, I was a dreamer. I read comic books, and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies, and I was the hero of the movie. So every dream I dreamt has come true 100 times." Why am I quoting Elvis Presley, you ask? In 1968-69, Ann and I were smitten with Elvis. Yes, we were 8 or 9, but our infatuation was passionate. We often played house in her backyard. All we needed was a blanket to attach to the fence tent style. Playing house, we chose movie star husbands. To Kamini, who was our subordinate, we graciously offered a choice, Tony Curtis or Rock Hudson. But Ann and I had exclusive rights to Elvis, and we created twin Elvis husbands. We each got one, and we also possessed the nose-twitching magic powers of Samantha from the show Bewitched to keep them in line. Fortunately, Ann met her real true love, Ed, who is far superior to any celebrity crush we fabricated as kids. But this is a testament to our friendship's strength. No jealousy, no bickering, but a sharing of Elvis twins. As children, we imagined ourselves in all kinds of make-believe adventures. We sang and danced up a storm in the backyard, and often made our siblings, Kamini, Vinny, and Chris, sit as an audience to our theatrics or actively participate singing renditions of A Frog Went a Courtin'. When Ann and I wanted to ditch our siblings, the little kids, we imagined intrigues, and like James Bond heroines, we escaped using the secret passage, which was a top secret mission. The secret passage was in actuality the space between the back garage and the neighbor's fence. Ann and I were collaborators, directors, allies, buddies. She always laughed at my silly antics. She got me, and I could be my true self unself-consciously. These are some of my treasured memories of childhood, full of keen enthusiasms, simple joys, innocent trust, and abiding love. My friend Ann was pure gold and a gift in my life. Ann grew to be a woman for all seasons, for all people. The discerning, inquisitive, intelligent, and enthusiastic child grew to be the same as a woman. Her essence was unchanged, and like me in grade 2, so many people have gravitated to her dignified stature, to her kindness and generosity. I was amazed at her zest for life, her talents, and her many esoteric interests. She always had a spark in her eye, a smile or laugh ready, and a witty, humorous story to relate. It was providential that Ann and I reconnected. Ed and Ann and I shared a few outings this year, a breakfast, a country drive, a tea, seeing Les Mis, for instance. On our last outing in January, Ed and Ann treated me to the movie Wicked. That was the last time I saw her, and a few weeks later she called to tell me of her illness. I'm very happy that my last words to her were "I love you," and she responded, "I know, hun." As I said, our last meeting was at the movie Wicked, which was a story about friendship, loss, and farewells. In this story, two best friends, Elphaba and Glinda, sing this song about the heartache of final partings, and it expresses my sentiments exactly. We're in sync. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn. I know I am who I am today because I knew you, and because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It may well be that we will never meet again in this lifetime, so let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. So today, with sadness, gratitude, and love, I say farewell to dear Ann, and I will miss her. I will miss you, Ann. Thank you.
Mark is a nephew with a very special connection to Ann that is hard to put into words. Both Ann and Ed have had many deep talks with Mark through his entire life.
It's funny, that song that everyone is mentioning, it was the first song that came into my head too when I learned the news and was listening it on repeat. So I think it says something that comes out. If you saw the video, I was the little kid that they first showed smiling up at them. I think I was Ann's first nephew, so I have that one little feather. So I mean, from that you can see that like I've known Ann basically as long as I can remember, and obviously with her memory, she knew me longer than that. But one of the earliest memories I have was of Ann at her wedding with Ed. Amidst all the chaos that was going on, she spent some time like finding ways to like entertain and trick me, this clumsy kid that wanted to like be involved and help in some ways, decorate her cake. But it was not decorating her cake. I was just playing around with some scraps, I think, and eating them. But she loved to tell her even earlier stories of introductions to me, which involved me running under the middle of heavy furniture while we were moving into a new house, yelling, "Helping, helping," but I was just getting in the way. And in the same year, burning my hand on an iron, but holding the wrong hand, so while she was trying to ice it, there was nothing actually happening. Ever since those early memories, I felt she had a kind and loving eye, out for me, and as Ed has mentioned, a special connection. Despite being an hour drive down to 401, her and Ed were regulars at my violin recitals, soccer tournaments, and all the other milestones growing up, and was like an active and core part of the holiday traditions. While I look forward to the banter and inside jokes with her during the festivities, I always knew that whenever I sat beside her, I'd lose full control over my dinner plate and have way more vegetables than I would ever plan to have as a kid. Anne was like fully integrated into the Rempel family and could outdo most of us in tracing the remotest branches of the Rempel clan and history. With that said, she added a different dimension to the family, and I'm not just talking about her bringing her own hot sauces to dinner sometimes, or her love of Coronation Street, which I never understood. If you've spent any time with Anne, you know there's little time wasted in deciding what to do or how to do it, saving us, I'm sure, hours in discussions about even basic things like what to order for dinner. The thing that stands out most to me, though, about Anne was how acutely present she always was. Her focus on the present meant that she never missed a thing, whether it was a precise fold in some origami, subtle change in body language during a talk, or a stain on my shirt. This trait, combined with a frankness, growth mindset, and emphatic touch she carried with those she invested in, are what I think made her have her true calling as a life coach. I felt this most directly with my summer, living and working with her and Ed back when they were still in just the one family home and business together. And this was in very early undergrad. Here, as the first job experience in an office, I made some pretty dumb mistakes, which she would spend half a day sort of dissecting with me, and not just discussing how I made the mistake, but digging into my philosophy, ambitions, and mental habits. While not exactly a day at the spa, the self-reflection that came from these things absolutely helped me improve and grow as a person, and is part of what makes me who I am today. I'm very grateful for all the experiences that I've had with her, both those and the funner ones we've consistently shared throughout my life. I wish we had more time for additional holiday retellings of a certain long-dead child, and so I can return the favor on those heaping servings of vegetables. But I will cherish the moments that we did have together.
Okay, next will be Joseph, and then Pam and Hannah. And Joseph is a close friend with many good stories with Anne.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joseph. I had a very special relationship with Ann Hetram. For an uncle, she was a loving wife and much more. For Raven and the crew at work, she was an amazing boss and leader. For her aunts and her nieces and nephews, she was an amazing aunt. For her Cam and Vinny, an amazing sibling, and much more. She was a close friend and mentor to some, a breakfast partner, and the list goes on and on. But Ann Hetram was also an awesome mother. Even though she never had kids of her own, both Ann Hetram and her uncle treated people as their own children. They would say they rent a few kids from time to time. I am one of those kids who had the absolute honor and privilege of getting looked after by Ann Hetram and her uncle. There are so many ways Ann Hetram has shown me her acts of kindness that I could stand here talking all day. She has helped me to grow up to be the man I am today. Growing up, I always had a small group of friends at school, basically 2 friends. I was always more keener on staying with friends and family who would be by my side no matter what. Ann Hetram was one of those persons who would never give up on me. She would often remind me on our phone calls during that no matter what I did, if I was to quit my job tomorrow and decide to start something completely new in a different way, as long as I had planned to achieve it, she would stand by my side and help in any way possible. From my first ever job during the summer months of grade 6, which you can probably guess by now was with Ann Hetram, to graduating post-secondary schooling and starting in the work field, Ann Hetram has helped me in the steps that it's needed me to get here today. There are just so many stories of how Ann Hetram has gone way beyond others, I don't know where to start. At home, between my dad and I, we have a couple of fish tanks, and we breed and sell some exotic fishes. 2 years ago, my dad and I were planning to go to India to visit some family over there and spend some time with them. This was one of our longest trips where we went away for 2 whole months. I've never gone to India for 2 whole months before. Over a course of our trip and planning, getting everything settled to go, I talked to Ann Hetram on the phone one day and mentioned we were thinking of going away. Her first question was not to have a safe trip, but who's going to be looking after the fish? I mentioned we were thinking of selling them all and starting fresh when we came back. With no knowledge of these fish or what she was getting into, she immediately said, "Nonsense, bring them over and set them in my house and office." For any clients or the office crew, if this is sounding to remember, during June 22, if you saw any fish tanks, those were my fish tanks. Ann Hetram offered to take all my fish tanks, set them up in her house and office, and look after them as if they were her own. She knew my dad and I were passionate about these fish, which meant she would be passionate in taking care of them. This was the type of person Ann Hetram was. She and Ravin spent the full 2 months looking after the fish, cleaning the tanks, feeding the fish, and growing them so they were all healthy when I got back. A huge thank you to Ravin as well, because Ann Hetram volunteering meant that he was voluntold to take care of them with them. Ann Hetram has always been there for me. No matter the type of day I was having, one phone call to Ann Hetram and everything would feel much better. Even through her own health issues, Ann Hetram was the type of person that if she could help someone, she would do it in any way possible and not expect a single thing in return. I will never forget how Ann Hetram has helped me in various occasions, the trips that we've had together. We've gone and visited Kingston, stayed, and much more, and I will cherish these memories forever. Thanks.
Pam is a close friend of Ann's that she often saw for breakfasts, the CNE home shows, and many activities they did together. And I'm going to read Ann's comments, or Pam's comments, sorry. Thanks, Ed. I know how difficult Ann's passing is for you. Nothing anyone can say or do will fill that void for you. Ann will be missed dearly by me and all who knew her, but no one will miss her as much as I do and miss all the adventures that we had. Those memories will live forever in my heart. I always thought that she would be the one talking about me, not vice versa. It just shows that death has no age. There are 2 memories I will never forget. First is how she was with me and my siblings when our mom got sick. She was with us hand in hand, no matter day or night, right up until our mom passed. The other was our annual trip to the CNE. Ann loved going. She didn't miss going for the last 50+ years. That particular summer, I broke my toe and had stitches from the surgery. My foot was in a cast and I was on crutches. I got the call from Ann. "Tickets are here." To which I replied, "Did you forget I have a broken toe and cannot walk?" Her reply, "I didn't forget, we are going." Long story short, we did go. Ann got a wheelchair, and believe it or not, she wheeled me around the CNE the whole day. Now that's a true friend. That's the Ann I knew and loved. She was generous in so many more ways. I cannot list them all to do that. Or to do that, I would be standing here all night. Goodbye, my friend. You are now at peace, no pain and suffering. Until we meet again, your forever friend, Pam. And now we'll have Hannah and then Thomasine and Annette. So Hannah is Ed's mother. Hannah and Ann were a constant support for each other over the years.
Hello. Ann was a very talented and special person. I think she tried every craft she saw and was excellent doing it. She was also a very caring person and was willing to do amazing things for her friends. For my husband and my 50th wedding anniversary, she created and prepared all the invitations and also mailed them out to each person. That was a huge job. But she also baked and decorated a gorgeous cake with blue sugar flowers on top. It was just so wonderful. In October 2009, my friend Helen and I were planning to travel to Cuba. We had decided to meet at Ed and Ann's place. Before Helen came to Ed and Ann's, she had been shopping at IKEA's with her daughter. While there, somebody stole her wallet. When Helen arrived at Ed and Ann's, she was very upset and didn't know what to do. But Ann sat down with her, asked her some questions about her cards, and in a very short time, she had made some phone calls and contacted all the credit card owners and canceled them so that no one else could use them. This was a huge relief to Helen, and we had the plane ticket and a reservation at the hotel, so we were ready to go. Anne also put a big X on our suitcases. She said this would be a big help for us when we needed to find our suitcases. This was a thoughtful thing for her to do. We saw how efficient and caring Anne was in everything that she did. My friend Helen lived in my apartment block in Winnipeg. One year, Ed and Ann came to visit me and also stopped at Helen's. Helen had a major problem. She did not know how to attach her new Venetian blinds. Anne looked at the windows and in a few minutes, she started to attach them. She worked and worked a long time till she had everything done and she completely fastened the blinds. Helen was so amazed that Anne would spend so much time for her. This was certainly beyond what we had expected. We will all miss Anne's love and care so much, and we feel very thankful that we had the privilege to share in her life. Ed will miss her even more because they shared all their life together. We wish them comfort and peace. Thank you.
Well, Thomasine is a close friend who has been everywhere in the world on cruises. Anne made it her mission to make Thomasine's life better.
I have that effect on people. Okay. I was blessed to have Anne come into my life in 2015. My finances had been handled by Peter Newton. His wife I'd gone to school with her in Montreal, and they had moved up this way, and her husband was handling my finances. But when they retired, they moved out to BC, and they suggested that I have my finances handled by Ed and Anne. And when Anne met me, she met me actually at a bad time. A good friend of mine that I had traveled the world with had also died of cancer. And I had, needless to say, let things go. I was suffering from a depression. I had let myself go, my house go, my finances go. But I finally swallowed my pride and went over. And I hadn't paid my taxes in 3 years, so she got that straightened up. I had maxed my credit cards, and she figured out a plan for that. And my bank accounts had been frozen. I don't know how that happened, but I had promised my best friend that I would take her brother out for his birthday, and I didn't even have cash. So Ed quietly left the room and came back and handed me some money. So she picked up my spirit somewhat. And more than that, they got me out of my rut. And they said, we're going to the Brampton Market on Saturday. Have you been? I said, no. Well, I was going. And they said, are you doing anything Friday night? I said, please. And so, well, we're going to a wine tasting. So, oh, that sounds good. So I can actually drink, I don't have to drive. And then there was an ELO concert. I guess some of you know who that group is. So we went, and of course that involved being picked up, having a delicious dinner, and clapping and singing to all. And Ann and Ed were singing every single word, every song that they knew. And it was just wonderful, reliving my youth. And then, of course, they go to, see what I mean? Hello. And they go to all the Ed Mervich's concerts. They picked me up at the door, delicious meal, and come from away. And Anne knew that because she specifically invited me to that one because my... Okay. Because my mother was from Newfoundland, and it was like that too. And I encountered Raven, and he was my IT guy because I was a TI girl. I was technologically impaired. So I would bring him my phone, and he would fix it up for me. And I don't know how they managed it, but at Christmas, they gave me a little something, and it was an album, and they had taken pictures of my great niece. She red hair, blue eyes. I just adored her. And they'd taken pictures and put it into a little photograph album for me. And I would go down to my sister, and my niece and nephew live in the States. And so I would go down to visit them, and I would go over, they would get on the internet, and they would find a flight for me. Raven would put in my proof of my inoculations from COVID, and they would pick me up at 5 o'clock, drive me to the airport along with Lorraine, and set up my phone so that I could get an Uber, and they would pick me up when I would land. And aside from that, they would also, when when I said I let my house go, my next door neighbor would knock on the door, hand me another tile from my roof. And they said, you know, you really should get that fixed. So Ann would make a phone call, make an appointment, come over and wait for the big burly Russian to give me on my roof. And all I could do was to take them out for dinner, now that I had my credit cards working, take them out for dinner or buy them gift cards. And she was my surrogate mother. Raven was my big brother. Lorene and Sabia also helped me out with things. I can't even list all the things that they did for me. And to say that I would miss her is just putting it mildly, and it's already been quoted. It was, "Hi, hon, how you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." I would, celebrate life a bit more today if Anne were actually here. I'm sure she would have made a delicious cake for us all, but I will miss her dearly, and I'm sure we all do. And I'm sure there are many other things too that she's done. Right now, I'm just trying to deal with this mic. Hello. And my middle name is Hope, and I'm sure over the longer that Anne got to know me, I'm sure she thought it should have been Hopeless, because it was one thing after the other. And when they said it was casual, I thought, well, these jeans were good, and the shoes are good, because they've got sparkles. And she was such a sparkling person, and she certainly added brightness and sparkles to my life. And I'm sure she's up there, the stars in heaven somewhere, looking down at us all today. And anyway, thank you, and I'm sure we all miss her and love her. And bye, hon, but hope to see you soon. Okay.
So I'm going to read some comments from Annette, and then after that we'll call Robert up. So Annette was a part of Anne's intentions group that met online every week. She was one of the good friends that Ann and Ed spent a week with in Switzerland last year. Ann was generous beyond measure, full of love, 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 humble, composed, self-sufficient, very clear, sharp as a knife, funny, very spiritual but down to earth, very grounded, always in the background, but very present and observant. She could see beyond the facades. Ann and Rita, with their spontaneous birthday visit, were the best birthday gift ever. In our master class, Ann was the one asking for facts. She asked for intentions that we could measure. They awed us. Ann wanted to have a birthday of someone noted on every day of her calendar and was looking for flowers that matched that person's name. Ann loved baking. I remember how passionate she was in the kitchen with Dave making sticky buns, how she talked about the spaghetti sauce that a former client was going to teach her to make. You should have seen her cake decorations. They were pieces of the most beautiful art. And everywhere you turned in her house, there was another piece of art that she had created, not only cakes. Ann stood up for herself, but gave herself fully to anything she did. Her job was a calling. She took care of people's finances, but at the same time put her heart and soul into her approach of every client. I am happy to have known Ann. I am sad that there are so many things we could not and will never do together. I love you, my dear friend Ann, and you are loved by so many more. Robert is a good friend. Ann had a deep connection with Robert and his first wife before she passed away very young. There is a story there. Their connection has continued with his new life.
You know, you think you know everything about someone, and then you come to a celebration of life, and you find out that Ann was an Elvis Presley fan. Who would ever think that? I wish I'd known that before while she was alive. I would really rib it in there, because I'm also an Elvis Presley fan. My name is Robert Sukamani. I first met Ann over 20 years ago at a presentation she and Ed was giving regarding investment and financial strategies. I remember my first impression of Ann, her tremendous ability to command an audience. She was very professional and an excellent speaker. It was my first experience to witness the chemistry that existed between Ed and Ann. After joining Ed and Ann organization, with a little bit of hesitation, and Ed would probably elaborate a lot on this little bit part. I know you have lots of stories to tell about that. I really started to notice the exceptional qualities that Ann possessed. Sitting with Ed and Ann, with Ed and Ann explaining these strategies to me at meetings, in those days, the organization was very small. So there was, he didn't have the organization he had now. So Ed was doing all the explaining of all the technical aspect of the strategies. I was lost half of the time with what he was saying, because he was just going at a fast speed. And Ann would just sit down, listen, and then at a certain point she would interrupt. She would take over the conversation, break it down in what I call poor man's language so that I can understand it. And I think that was a major part of what sold me being a permanent client. I was a very hard person to convince, probably a bit difficult as well, because, in those days, and you're a guy, you're a man. Nobody will tell me how to spend my money. I know how to spend my money. That's the attitude mostly men has. So I was a very hard person to convince. And Ann worked it in such a way to convince me, to convert me. And I often thought of that. And I often think that Ann probably said in those days, "Don't worry, I'll fix him." And she did. She had this great intuition about herself. She looked at my behavior. She looked at the way I spoke. And she assessed me right to a T. Not a lot of people has that quality, but she had it and she did it very well. I found her to be a very focused person, business-like person. Her goal was always getting the job done, and she always got it done right. Quite a few times she would invite my wife Monica and I to the theater. And we went a couple of times and had a tremendous time with both her and Ed. She didn't invite us anymore after a while. I think it's probably because I said to her one day, "I don't know why anybody would go and see that wicked show, because I don't know what's good about that show." Never heard from her after that. She had the ability to step up a notch, which I noticed several times during my time with her. And she stepped up and did it with great success. In the latter years, I didn't have a lot of contact with Ann, except for tax purposes. When I took my tax return in, she would be at the top of the stairs and we would talk. The last conversation we had actually was last year when you guys went on a cruise. She was on the top of the stairs and she's saying to me, "I gotta go on this cruise, I gotta go there, I gotta travel on this plane, and I don't know why I'm going." And when she was on the cruise, my wife showed me in Facebook photographs of her having a whale of a time. So it was nice to see that. It was nice to see that she went and enjoyed herself. Looking back, I found Ann to be a very professional person, knowledgeable person. Her ability to read people, I thought, was one of her greatest assets. This extraordinary person was instrumental in setting the stage for the lifestyle that my wife and I are presently enjoying. And for that, we will always be grateful. She will be truly missed.
So I'm going to read some comments from Sharon and Alicia, and then Hazel will be the final presenter. So some words from Sharon. Sharon is a good friend and part of Ann's Cake Club, the Canadian Society of Sugar Artists, CSSA, and got so much joy from everything they did in the club and all her friends there. I met Ann when I joined CSSA in 2004, and she had joined the year before. I actually had to look up the dates because it seemed like we were friends forever. She was such a dynamo, and her enthusiasm was contagious as she dragged me into becoming a board member with her, doing demos for Redpath Sugar, manning the booth at Canada Blooms and the Creative Festival more than once, and hosting international cake decorators from Australia, South Africa, and the United States, etc. She had such a knack of coming up with these great ideas and managing to pull them off with great successes. We even did a road trip to the 2013 ICES convention in Kentucky, where she enthusiastically put up with my desire to collect pins from as many hard rock cafes as we could find along the way. She happily suffered through lunch at one, drinks at another, and finally dinner at another, all in one day so that I could get 3 pins on the way there and then again on the return trip to add a 4th pin to my collection. She was always up for a challenge, and it was a great trip. We had a lot of fun. Over the next couple of years, my dad's health began to decline, and I was struggling with his neurologist not agreeing with the course of treatment for him. And again, it was Ann to the rescue. She listened to my concerns, consulted her sister about the meds he had been prescribing to get me some answers, and when I couldn't get a referral to another neurologist, somehow she got me one, and life became a whole lot better for my family. Not long after that, my dad was put in a nursing home, which left my mom to take care of her own everyday life stuff that my dad always did. Banking, paying bills, and filing income taxes. She had never done any of that stuff before. And once again, Ann stepped up and volunteered to help us out. She always went above and beyond for her friends. When my dad passed away 8 years ago, she was right there for me again. When the world shut down because of COVID, a lot of contacts were lost and things changed drastically. I didn't see or speak to Ann quite as much as before, but we would still speak on the phone periodically, and it was as if we had not skipped a beat. We were in different cities, but whenever she was in town, we would chat and try to get together to catch up. Her heart issue knocked out the winds out of her sails for a bit, but she bounced from that as well. Again, she was a dynamo and nothing could hold her back. She was deeply spiritual and had an uncanny thirst for life, always passionate about taking on new experiences and living life to the fullest. I am grateful to have called her my friend for over 20 years, and I will miss her greatly. I'm sure there is more that she helped me with over the years that I have left off this list. May she rest easy knowing that she actually changed lives while she was here. I hope you could take some comfort in knowing that she meant a lot to others besides you and her family. Keeping you in my thoughts and prayers, Sharon. And then Alicia is a good friend and part of Ann's Cake Club. We gathered together to celebrate the life of Ann Hetram, a truly remarkable soul whose presence brought light into the lives of many. Though our hearts are heavy with grief, we hold on to the beautiful memories and moments we shared, carrying her legacy forward in all that we do. I met Ann after joining the Canadian Society of Sugar Artistry. At my first meeting, the group was struggling to connect the projector. Having a bit of experience through work, I shyly offered to help. Ann was astounded that as a newcomer, I was eager to lend a hand, and that was the moment our friendship began. Later, she casually mentioned visiting her brother Vinny, a veterinarian in Caledonia. My eyes widened as I exclaimed, "Dr. Vinny is your brother? What a small world. I had known Dr. Vinny and Dr. Isabel for years, as they were my dog's vets, long before I had ever met Ann." There are so many words that come to mind when thinking of Ann: kind, caring, intuitive, empathetic, assertive, and determined. But above all, I cherished her candor. She never minced words, and you always knew where you stood with her. She also had a rare gift for making people feel truly valued. When my daughter was involved in a car accident that wasn't her fault, Ann called on her beloved Pop to come to the courthouse and defend her. When my job was restructured and I lost half my pension, Ann and Ed took me under their wing. Thanks to their generosity and kindness, I'm now going to be able to retire with security and peace of mind. Just one of the many ways Ann's kindness left an imprint on my heart that will never fade. And thank you, my dear honey bunny, for the love, laughter, and wisdom you brought into our lives. You will be missed and never forgotten. And Hazel. Hazel is a good friend and part of Ann's Cake Club, the Canadian Society of Sugar Artists.
I'm the little one.
Yes, hopefully this actually maybe will, if we can move it down a little bit and then have it point up, maybe it'll work. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Hazel, and as you've heard, I've been a part of the Canadian Society of Sugar Artistry for a while. I wish I knew exactly how long, but Anne would have known. Anyway, I met Anne when I joined the Canadian Society of Sugar Artistry, CSSA, maybe 15 years ago. And this next message is from someone who asked that I pass this on. The main thing I remember is she basically saved CSSA. When she joined, we were in dire need of money. Within 2 years or possibly less, she had us back on our feet and even had some savings. She was not afraid to tell us the bad news and the way to fix it. We had to raise our dues as a start. Although we were reluctant, she came prepared with flip charts, graphs, and bank statements, and we had to agree that she was correct. As proof of our devotion to her, we kept voting her onto the board. As you've heard, CSSA was a big part of Anne's life. She was a dedicated member, taking part in all activities and fundraiser events over the years, and served on the board of CSSA, holding positions as director, secretary, president, and up until her passing, treasurer. We all know she was a numbers person, and I can tell you, when it came to electing officer positions, Anne was voluntold what her position would be. No one else wanted to be treasurer, least of all me. As I got to know Anne and attended meetings with her, I was amazed at her ability to retain and repeat details of discussions while myself and others needed to refer to our written notes. Anne was friendly, patient, caring, helpful, and always willing to share her time and the fruits that she grew. In one of our conversations, I told her about the little problem we were having with our dog. Anne immediately said, "My brother is a vet, I'll talk to him." Shortly after, Anne called back. "Vinny said to call him, here's his number." I spoke to Vinny, and we are still following his advice. Thank you, Vinny. I also experienced her compassion, her compassionate side. When she learned that our family had suffered a loss, I could tell that she was genuinely touched, and whenever we spoke, she would always ask how everyone was doing. We also shared some fun times. One that will always stay with me is the laughter that was created when my prankster-loving husband tried to get people to call him Sir Rawl. And did, and it became a running joke. Vinny, don't you dare let on that I even mentioned the word.
Thank you all for coming today and for listening. Please join us for the reception We will be ushered out from the front, and then you may all follow. Please share your stories with Ann, especially your stories of Ann's acts of kindness with Ed and each other. These talks have been recorded and will be replayed here in the chapel at 7 p.m. The link will also be on the Turner and Porter page and on Ed's blog about Ann if anyone wants to watch them later. The song as we walk out is the big finale, Defying Gravity, from Ann's favorite musical, Wicked. It was a very memorable moment last year. Ann and Ed went to see the movie Wicked with Raven, her sister Cam and Walter, and Despina. And this song was the big finale. As soon as the lights came on, Ann turned to Ed with a huge smile and big eyes sparkling. She loved the show. After that moment, we had to play this song for Ann. She is defying gravity now.
Something has changed. Something is not the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and follow the family this way?
Wounds of someone else's skin. Too late for sympathy. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts. Close my eyes and leave this head to dry. Gravity. And you can't hold me down. Can I make you understand? You're having delusions of grandeur. Through accepting lips. Cause someone says they're so. Some things I can't change. But too long I've been afraid of losing what I guess I lost. Oh, it's not smart. Here comes the touch to who I am. I still don't know gravity. It's me.
Grandchildren,